Hello everyone, Rismus for Thrive and Survive. It is December 29th, 2019, and wanted to do a little video here and compare what we see here on the left, which is the moon. I think it's pronounced Io. That's what I'm going to call it. If that's wrong, I apologize. Io, which is around Jupiter, and our moon, which is around the Earth, right? So we're going to do a little comparison of this, and we're going to show you how NASA either lies about the moon or it lies about Io, or what I think it lies about both. Now, this is the first video where I'm not live. I'm going to be doing adding to many of my videos at the end. Just a quick, I'm going to call it a food for thought series. Just a little something. Today's going to be very short. Some of them may be in more detail. The last one I did, I started it on my last live video where I was talking about It's a Wonderful Life movie and its hidden meaning. So with that being said, in the lower right hand corner, I will have the timestamp where this will begin, and it's going to be called FFT, Food for Thought, so that if you want to end the video at that point, or if you just want to skip and get to that point, you can. So let's get into this and see how NASA catches itself lying once again. I'd like to thank my friend Charles in San Diego who sent me this picture. If he hadn't sent me this picture, I would have never gone down this path. Anyway, he sent this to me on my phone. I took a look at it, and just immediately, as soon as I looked at it, I was like, what is wrong with this picture? Something is not right. So this is what we're actually going to look at. What you're seeing is this is a shadow of Io on the planet Jupiter, which obviously under the shadow is a total eclipse, just like we had in North America here in, well, a couple years ago. What was it, 2017? So what we're going to do is we're going to see what is wrong with this picture. Go ahead and pause it if you want. There's more than one thing wrong with this picture, and I'll point out a couple of them. First of all, if the shadow is here, then the sun must be directly above it, but Jupiter is brighter on the right side than it is here. But that's not what we're going to be looking at right now. We're going to be looking at something much more important to us here on Earth. So what I'd like to do is compare Jupiter's moon Io to Earth's moon, its size and its relative distance from the planet itself. Let's take a look. Okay, this is the meat of the presentation here. Pay attention to this part. The following can be found at space-facts.com, and then / the moon for the moon, and then / moons / EO / for EO moon facts. This is for people who can do all kind of research to debunk you until you come up with something that debunks them. Then suddenly they can't do any research. You didn't provide a link. Anyway, this is for those people. So let's look at the diameter of the moon, and we're going to compare the diameter of the moon to that of Io. This is in kilometers, so we're just going to stick with kilometer. And it's 3,475 kilometers away from the Earth on average. And we're going to get into the distance from the Earth in a minute, but here's Io, 3,643 kilometers. So Io, 3,643 versus 3,475, they're almost identical in size. 150 kilometers difference, not too much difference. So let's look at the specifics down here. So the diameter of the moon, 3475 versus 3673. We just looked at that. The distance, the moon is closer to the Earth than Io is to Jupiter. 384,000 kilometers versus 421,800 kilometers. Still relatively close for both of them. No big difference. However, this is pretty cool because our moon is 95.3% the size of Io. So it's just 5% smaller. But it is 9% closer to the Earth than Io is to Jupiter. The shadow cast, the sun eclipse, should be roughly only 8.5% size difference from each other. What I did was I just took the difference in size and then the difference in closeness, and I divided the percentage and came up with 8.5% difference. So a very small difference in the actual diameter of the shadow that would be cast on each object. All right, does that make sense? So they're almost virtually identical. So we had a 70-mile wide total shadow on the Earth. What did we have on Jupiter? Well, they don't tell us, but that's okay. So even if it's, instead of 8.5%, let's go with 10%. We always bleed towards the other side, don't we? So a 70-mile wide shadow of the moon on the Earth times 10% equals 7 miles. So we should have a 77-mile wide shadow of Io on Jupiter. So just a little bit bigger shadow. So let's go with 77 miles instead of 70. No big deal, right? Let us go back to our photograph. All right, do you see the lie? The first lie is there's absolutely no penumbra in this picture. Absolutely none. The only thing you get when you zoom in right here, you get what artistically needs to be done to make it look right in a drawing or a picture. And this is exactly what we see with any shadow. There's about a 1% of the outside of the edge will diffuse like this. This is not this diffuse part. This is not hundreds of times larger than the umbra that we are told always exists. There is no umbra on, there's no penumbra on Jupiter whatsoever. But the main problem is, look how huge this shadow is. We said 10% difference. Let's give it 100% difference. Let's give it 200% difference. Let's say it should be 250 miles away. I mean, wide, 250 miles wide. What do you think of that? Well, let's take a picture of Jupiter and overlay it. Watch this. I'm overlaying a picture. Okay, and I'm going to go back. There's Jupiter. I'm making it, it's actually a little smaller. Can you see how it gets smaller? This new picture of Jupiter. This picture, and then this picture, a little bit smaller. So I'm making Jupiter a little bit smaller, again, helping out the other side. I'm not going quite as big as the planet itself. So why am I doing this with this? Okay, let's find out. Let's take this, because this is a comparison of the Earth. There's the Earth in comparison. So this right here is the Earth, but yet if we go here, oh, do you see the problem? Maybe I can get this to overlay. Let's see, there we go. I've made this picture right here smaller in scale than this picture of Jupiter. And here's the Earth, which this is a comparison photo from sciencefacts.com, comparing Jupiter and the Earth. So the shadow from something that should be no more than about 10% difference is, I don't know, almost twice the diameter of the Earth. So there's no penumbra, and it is bigger than the Earth, easily bigger than the Earth. Let me bring down the opacity here and show you. Oh, one Earth? Almost two Earths fit in there. Isn't that amazing? So, I mean, that means this shadow is, I don't know, 7,000 something miles wide, because the Earth is roughly, I don't know, 3,800 miles in diameter. 7,200 miles wide. Let's just call it 6,000 miles wide. It's total BS, people. You're being lied. And they can't think of all the things they have to make in right proportion and things like that, because the people will just look at this and say, oh, isn't that fascinating? Yes, that's so true. Anyway, it's all a lie. Take care, guys. Stand by if you're interested in the little tidbit of the day, and we'll go from there. And please share this everywhere. In the first installment in this series, I talked about It's a Wonderful Life and the meanings that you can glean from that. And something was actually in that movie that I think we need to just speak about briefly. This is for the people who continually write me and think that everything the government says is the truth. You know, I showed in a couple of videos actually where in the 1960s the government was putting at the bottom of the national anthem that would come on every night when the local stations would sign off, and it would come on every morning when the local stations would sign on. You would have "Oh Say Can You See" by the dawn's early light, blah 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 blah. But when you slowed it down, of course you didn't have the technology to slow it down in the 60s and early 70s, it said trust the government and different things like that. Subliminals were put in there. And there's people that deny that even happened. I've done 2 videos on it. If you do a search, you'll find it. But here's another thing. A lot of other people say, well, they didn't start really lying to us until maybe the 60s or 70s. Really, the government, which means govern, to control, meant mind, to control the mind. Since the existence of government, they have been controlling and lying to us. Now, here's something that let me read this here. During World War II, scrap drives were a popular way for everyone to contribute to the war effort. By recycling unused or unwanted metal, for example, the government could build ships, airplanes, and other equipment needed to fight the war. Rah, rah! And they got everybody to do these things, and you could see it in It's a Wonderful Life. Scrap drives, metal drives, rubber drives, blah, blah, blah. This was a way to just keep the people busy and make them think they were contributing to the war effort to get them emotionally in it. That's what this was for. Ask anybody that works for metal, or works with metal rather, that if you can't take an aluminum pot and then mix it with a steel pot or an iron pot or kettle or whatever you want to call it. You can't mix different metals together, melt them down, and then use them to build ships and tanks and things like that. It's totally useless. Now, there are some honest places that have now reported this, but as you can see here, Scrap for Victory, Library of Congress blogs. I don't know if they admit it there, but it was all BS. Not one pot or pan was used to win the war. All it did was keep the people busy thinking that they were investing in helping the guys overseas. Meanwhile, it stimulated the economy because people ended up having to buy new pots and pans, new tires, new whatever they turned in for recycling, just for BS. You know, a modern day version of this is, and I don't know, the technology may have changed in the last 20 years. I don't know. But the same thing is true with plastics. You can't take different plastics and melt them down and come up with a way to recycle the plastic. At least you couldn't 20 years ago. But more than 20 years ago, they were gathering plastic. And I can't remember. Actually, one of the networks did an expose on it one time. Just one time. And they showed a guy pushing with a machine all this plastic into a corner. And they exposed that nothing was ever done with it because different plastics or different percentages of one kind of plastic versus another, they can't be melted together and used. It's just useless. And the same thing was true with gathering metal in World War II and rags, even rags. Do you think rags helped win the war? The government's been lying to us for a long time, folks. It's time people start waking up. Okay, this is the end of the second in the series. God bless each and every one of you. Please share this video everywhere. And if you like my work, please find the links below for Patreon and other ways that you can help this work continue. Thank you very much.